Today we have on a branding specialist, Ari K. Her business is Chykalophia. She's here in Chicago by way of Bali. She was born and raised in Bali and broke all the rules and made her way over to Chicago to be a branding specialist. And she's here to talk about that and women entrepreneurship and everything in between. So stay tuned. Hello, everyone. This is Meredith with a Y, and I am your host, Meredith Willits. Today, we are going to go deep, changing lives, and I am giving you the keys to the castle. Okay, recording. So, Ari K, my beautiful friend, thank you so much for being here today. I so appreciate it. I'm super excited to talk about branding and brand creation and brand strategy, because let me say, that's what everyone's talking about right now is that's so off brand. That's so on brand. Like, that's all I kept hearing I was waking up this morning thinking about talking to you, and I'm like, yes, we get to talk about being on brand and what that means. So thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it.
I'm honored to be in here, Meredith. I feel like I'm so excited that this day finally has arrived. I can't wait to chat more with you about all things branding, and also like some things around our own life, right? In our professional life as a woman in business.
Yeah. And so when we first talked, I was so excited because you're from Bali. And I was in Bali 2.5 years ago, and I'm like, what are you doing in Chicago if you're from Bali? But I get it. But so tell us all about Bali to Chicago and how you got here and what made you come.
My goodness. At this time of year, I really wish I'm in Bali, right? I mean, like, honestly, we're not even done with winter. I don't know what you call it now.
I know.
But it's all actually started off when I was still living in Bali. And I would say it's probably
you were living in Bali, right?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
About 11 years or so ago, maybe now. Now, at that time, I was working on my very first job as the official graphic designer at this really, I would say like a pretty prestige firm for all things hospitality. They own a lot of like different hotels in Bali, so many different like hospitality businesses under this one particular business. It was all great. The thing is that when my husband, back then he was my fiance, he was traveling to Bali, and then he finally asked me this question. Okay, all right, I'm so curious. You love your work. I know you're like an awesome and kick-ass designer, but how much do you really get paid per month?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's a pretty random question coming from you, but yeah, I'm an open book. I got paid $250 per month. And he's like, wait, you mean you add another zero at the end, right? And I was like, no, just 250
a month.
That's it. Yes, a month.
And that's like very normal. I mean, we need to preface.
Yes.
This is not like normal. It's very normal, unfortunately, in Bali. I mean, I remember when we would talk to people in Bali and they would tell us about how they had relatives who worked on the cruise ships and they were like millionaires because they were making like $3,000 a month. Like they were the millionaires of the family. So it's not that you were being underpaid. It was just that was $250 was actually, I mean, when we went to Bali, the guys that helped us in our house, they were making $150 a month. So actually you're killing it at $250. So
yeah. And I was just like, I just graduated right from an art school back then. So it was my honestly very first job that I was super excited about. But my husband really showed me like other ways that I could thrive. And he showed me all this, like you can be a freelancer, so you can get work online and all these different things. And it just like blew my mind, to be honest. Like, okay, that is interesting. So I studied a bit more. I dabble in like some of these websites for freelancing. And I finally told myself, this is amazing. I'm going to try it out. So I told my parents like, hey, mom and dad, I'm going to be my own businesswoman. I'm going to be my own boss and I'm going to quit my job. And they're like, sure. I'm pretty much sure that they did not take that seriously. Right. So there I am. I already quit my job. 2 weeks into like being a freelancer, my parents finally asked me like, Ari, why aren't you going to work? Are you like taking a vacation or something? It's like, no, I quit my job. And they're like, oh my God, this girl, like, seriously, are you being serious right now? You're just doing things online. Are you sure that's a job? And I was like, yes, mom, dad, I make some money. And it was just so interesting because our culture was not really thought about the possibility beyond like 9 to 5 work, right?
Yeah.
Beyond that, there's nothing that really, you know, being educated to us or being shared with us that you can do anything you want. Even when I was a kid, all that I knew is everything and anything around tourism. I had to
Yeah.
really like break into like something that, what is it that I really want from my own career, from my own future? I do not want to be in tourism. In fact, Meredith, before I decided to be a designer, this take me to like my senior year in high school. I didn't want to go to art school or not even college at all. I thought my parents like not gonna be able to help me go to school or college and everything. So I told my parents like, I don't need to go to college, mom, dad. Honestly, it's like, it's okay. And then they're like, no, 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 no. You're our firstborn daughter. You are going to college no matter what.
Yeah.
So my mom came back from work one day. She gave me this piece of paper to file in for a scholarship. I got the scholarship, and it's for tourism school. Like, honestly, you do not need to pay anything. You just go in there, get
Right.
the scholarship, and then study. I ended up thinking, it's like, I really don't want to be in tourism. I want to be a designer. So before they finalize all these like scholarship thing, I met the judges and I told them, I was like, I'd like to go to art school to be a designer. I do not need a scholarship. And they're like, what? This girl? Like, what on earth are you talking about? You already
I
got the
love it.
scholarship. It's like, no,
I
no, no,
love
no.
it.
You can give it to somebody else. I'm going to go to art school. And they're like so surprised by that. And obviously my parents are all like so upset. It's like, why on earth are you doing that? But what made me also realize is that I want to take in charge of what my future looks like, right? I'm kind of like a rebel back then, but
I
I'm
can't, I
glad
mean,
I stood up.
I love this. I'm swimming in this. I hope all my listeners right now are swimming in this because I think so many of us, especially women, we are people pleasers. We want to make our parents happy at all costs. It
Yes.
doesn't matter. We get on that on that sled and we're going down the hill and the snowball is growing and growing, and now we've graduated from college in a degree we want nothing to do with, and now we're going for a career in a good career we want nothing to do with. And then we wake up when we're 43, we lose our minds, we get a divorce and run away with the circus because we've literally lived our lives for someone else. And I love what you're like. I literally want my 12-year-old to listen to this podcast as we're recording it because I want her to rebel against me. I'm not kidding. Like, I really do. I want my kids to just, I don't care what you do, but be happy. And the fact that you're saying that you did this in a world, in a culture, in a family, in everything, and you actually were given free money to get on the sled and go down the hill, and you said, I still don't want it, to me is life. Like everything I want to be. Like, you're my spirit animal. Like, because but I mean, I wanted to be a beautician. I did. I wanted to be a beautician,
Yeah.
and it was not I'm going to a 4-year college, and that's what I'm doing. So thank you for just this snippet, because you are changing people's minds and how they raise their kids. And even to say to their kids, people that are listening, because there's a lot of women with kids, look, I don't care if I think you should be a doctor. What the hell do you want to be? So thank you. I love this conversation. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm brimming
No,
because I
no,
can't even take how much I love it. Go, go, go.
thank you, Meredith. Gosh, but yeah, it was really hard for me to finally just like owning it. I know my parents love me very much, right? It's just that the fact that I finally figure out there's something I want to go towards, right? I finally feel like I want to hit that goal. And it was just really exciting for me. And what's really interesting is that these judges who was thinking that I was such a crazy girl for turning down this scholarship, they ended up calling me back and they introduced me to the in-house graphic designer in their hotel. And I was like, this is amazing. I've never met like graphic designer in my real life before. And this just opened up my world. Like, okay, this is what I'm going to be experiencing once I graduate from art school. So it was just like a really cool way to finally see like what is beyond tourism, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
obviously everybody was like into tourism. Honestly, everybody in my family all of them, Meredith, believe it or not. Well, honestly, I think you would believe it because you've been to Bali.
Yep. That's
Right?
the bread and butter right there is tourism,
Exactly.
wood furniture making, I
Yes.
mean, or rice. Yeah. Or rice. You can cook, you can
So
make rice.
yeah,
Yeah. I
that
mean,
is
that's
pretty
what it
much,
is. But that's survival. But
yes.
you decided that you wanted more than
Hmm.
existence, survival. Kudos to your husband. Thank God, because now we have you here in Chicago and helping many people brand
Yeah.
their companies. But how amazing is it though? And that's, hey, listeners, it takes one good person to believe in us and to
Hmm.
plant that seed of possibility and hope. And you can do this to change someone's life, and we can do it for the
Yeah.
neighbor's kid, or a teacher could do it. And the opposite, of course, is we've heard horror stories of like really crappy, guidance counselors or whatever. That's like, you can be a nurse or a teacher. And that's, like, not that that's the bottom, but you know what I mean? Where they steer you away from your goals. I have a girlfriend that her
Yeah.
daughter got like a 34 on her ACT, and they're like, it was just the poopiest experience. So someone can like literally plant the seed or can destroy the seed. But thank God for your
Hmm.
husband that he planted that seed in you and showed you the possibilities. And if anyone's ever been on like Fiverr, Fiverr.com, there are a
Hmm.
lot of people from different places all over the world that they're probably making money in the same way, and they're
Yeah.
getting paid fair wages for doing great work
Hmm.
instead of making the $250 an hour. So like, I mean, but we
Yes.
need to have people do that, like that's amazing. Like, I love that. Huge,
Agreed.
huge.
So yeah, those are pretty much my, I guess, like my background, how I came about into liking design, enjoying design, and pretty much now, live and breathe with it because that is the primary services of my company. Now, how I get here to Chicago, that's also like kind of interesting because it involves quite a romantic journey that I'm probably not gonna have time to chat about it today. But the idea is that my husband and I were thinking, okay, I am from Bali. He's here in Chicago, right? He has been living here in Chicago ever since he was 5. And we've been really thinking before we get married, where do we want to live? I started realizing there's not enough education, nor support, nor empowerment for women entrepreneurs in Bali. So, with that into taking into account, my husband just told me, like, okay, Ari, if you're open to it, why don't you come to the United States? We'll build a company here together, and then we'll see what we can do by learning, and then just like get the resources we need here, and then eventually we can move back to Bali if that's something that you want. So I thought about it, and that was a really scary move, right? Like, how am I
Yeah.
gonna do that? Like, I don't know anybody in Chicago. I don't even know where to start. But I believe that there's such abundant of resources here in the United States. None of those are available for me in Bali back then. I've been in, like, right now these days. Indonesia has been finally moving into like the entrepreneurship, and they're supporting a lot of those efforts and empowerment. But boy, have I waited like 11 years just to wait for that to happen.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I took the chance. I told my parents, like, I'm gonna go to Chicago, and then I'm gonna try to see what I can make out of myself, and like, what can I chase in terms of like my dreams or my professional development in there. So that's pretty much how I made the move. I left everything behind, just took like one suitcase with my essentials, and
Wow.
then there I go.
I love it. I love it. I love that. Just you're so strong. It takes a lot of guts. And so kudos to you and your parents for like surviving that, because I'm sure that is a game
Yeah.
changer as far as a parent's concerned. So now you're in Chicago and now you have your company, Chykalophia. Woo, woo, I said it
Yeah.
right. Chykalophia. And does that mean something? Is it a name for something, or just something like what you just like the name? What is Chykalophia?
That is a really interesting question. And I heard that a lot simply because people are curious about the name. It's not usual. That name, honestly, doesn't really mean anything. I completely made it up. I made it up when I was in high school. I was so bored during biology class, and people and the teacher are just talking about all these like biology names for worms and, different animals and things like that. And I challenged myself, okay, if anybody could create, well, scientists can create all these names, why can't I create one? So I was like challenging myself to be like somebody that can create some sort of like name. And I come up with Chykalophia, and right away I feel some connection to it.
Neat.
And I asked a friend of mine who's really into silk and screen printing. I asked him, hey, can you print this for me and put it in my backpack? And ever since then, that label has become so attached to me. And people have been seeing me, okay, Chykalophia, that's Ari. And I start using the same name over and over for my profiles on any design membership or even like design websites and things like that. So it just built its own name and its own equity. And when we finally create the company, my husband asked, okay, what should we call our company? Do you want to keep your brand Chykalophia and then, you know, build a company with that name? And I was like, why not? So
Why not?
that's pretty much how it got started.
Fun.
And yeah, it has its own curiosity. People always try to understand what it is and how it had become its own brand for us. And I also feel like it has some sort of like personal attachment to me, right? I feel like when you talk about brand and you hear about the stories of each brand, there's always a person behind it. What is this person's story all about? And you start to get an understanding, like they're either some sort of like things that happen in their life, whether it's like a conflict or a development that happened in their life that takes them from that point in the journey into where they are today. So that I feel like has been really interesting to see the development of Chykalophia.
Yeah. And I mean, that's basically what you do all day is find out a person's story and
Yeah.
the energy behind what they're doing and where they're headed and what you know, the energy of the embodiment of their brand before it maybe even is a brand. Maybe it's just an idea when they come to you, or maybe they've been doing it for 10 years, but it seems like the energy is shifting. And so you kind of take their story and how, like, what's your, like, explain how branding works. I mean, it's now everything about branding is, of course, like you said, the story, the person behind the story. I want to have connection.
Yeah.
Everything in 2021 is connecting to a person or whatever. And so how do you take someone's story and turn that into a thing that wasn't there before? Like Chykalophia, it wasn't there before and now it's there. So how do you go about doing that?
Wow, brand is such a complex thing, and I feel like this is not enough time for us to talk about all things brand, right? However, if you really think about it, the moment you understand about a brand, number one, there's got to be a connection or the curiosity at the very least, like why you're interested in this brand. What is it for you, right? I mean, like what got you so interested that you want to either connect or follow or find out more about this brand? There's got to be something that makes you, number one, interested, and then maybe then you're trying to figure out, okay, is there some sort of like alignment here? Do they follow exactly some sort of like value, or is there like something that maybe you can connect with me? Say that one brand is very much into sustainability, maybe that is also something that you value the most, right? Obviously when you feel like, okay, there's a connection here, they also value the same thing that I do, so let's check it out. I mean, like I also am looking for new things for maybe like, let's just say like a makeup product. And once you find or bridge that particular connection, it happened. It happened in terms of like you finally find a connection and you finally try to understand like what this brand is all about. The funny thing, in my opinion, about brand is that people are tying that into their identity, right? Whatever you buy these days, you almost feel like it attached to who you are.
Right.
If you buy something good, you feel good and you feel like, okay, yeah, I'm contributing to something good. You obviously are not going to like promote to your friends that you're buying like bad brands who promote like bad values and behaviors and all that kind of stuff. Like for example, my husband, he really does not like Jimmy John's simply because the founders or the CEO of Jimmy John's are just not that ethical. Right. So he's like, no, I will never, ever, ever buy Jimmy John's. And I finally understand that after, really studying brand and how we these days are really tying that into our identity. So let me ask you, Meredith, which brand is your favorite?
Okay. So when we were just talking about that brand identity, the first thing I went to is how much like I love like going to Trader Joe's and I feel good. And when I leave, I feel like happy and the cashiers are all have like blue hair and are fun. And it's just like a positive experience. Or like
Yeah.
Aldi, I love that they're healthy and they don't store their food in the background. It's like right on the shelves, healthy and organic. And so I like, and versus just a grocery store that has like no personality to it. It's just a totally still getting food, still getting apples, but it has a totally different energy connect for me. 100%.
And yeah, and that's the experience too, right?
Hmm.
So when you think about like branding, it's not just about the logo, it's not just about the colors or things that you see, it's also about the experience, right? What or how do you really feel when you get to one particular place?
Yeah.
Like for example Trader Joe's that you mentioned, or even like maybe if it's online, when you go to a certain website, is the website actually clear for you so that you can browse and find things rather easily for your own needs, or is it going to make you feel like you're wasting your time?
Yeah.
So that experiences, and also like the communication, right? How do you want to really share your values, your message to the audience? Is that really what they need? And at what phase is it in their life that they would need your services or products? I think when you try to understand brand and trying to position where your brand is, you have to really pay a very close attention in terms of like, who are these people?
Yeah.
How closely can you define these people, right? I mean, you can say like, yeah, this is for everybody, but when you're targeting everybody, you're really targeting nobody. So if you can be
Yeah.
very specific and clear about that, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to really think about how their thinking is and what do they do or what do they have to go through to make a decision, right?
Yeah.
Find
I love that when, it's becoming such a common thing to say like, what's the avatar of the person that's your client? And once you identify that, then you could kind of create like for myself, it took me a long time to kind of figure out who I am as far as my career and
Mhm.
like who am I talking to? And now I know who I'm talking to because they're texting me and emailing me and messaging me. So now I have an idea of the women primarily and some men that
Yeah.
I'm speaking to. And so then I can create content and talk to the people that they want to hear from. You know what I mean? Even if it's
Mhm.
just one series, but or dribble in here and there. Um, so I think it's harder to brand yourself because you're like, it's the tree in the forest. And so that's where you come in, where someone contacts you. And just for everyone's information, her contact information are all in the show notes, and it'll be, if you can't find it, she's got a website. It's all going to be in the show notes, so we can have it in there. Um, they contact you, and then it kind of like the story starts, right? So now they've got with you, and then do you do like a background research with them? Like how do you work with a person who has a small business, or like what's the smallest business and what's the biggest business that you usually deal with?
That's a good question. Typically, when people come to us around branding, a lot of the time, they honestly, number one, either they don't know what their brand is all about, and that's why they're coming to us. Or number two, they sort of have a brand, but have no idea what to do with it.
Yeah.
Right. So I think there's like two different cases here. For the first one, though, oftentimes we go through like a discovery phase. Well, this is typically for both cases, but we would go through this discovery phases, understanding like what is it that you need and what is it that would make sense for you to prioritize in your business.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the time when clients come to us, they would say, okay, we need a website or we need this logo X, Y, and Z, but why? A lot of the time too, they just feel like, okay, people told me that I need to do X. I need to have this before I,
Right.
sell my products or services and everything. But when you only do things because somebody told you that you have to, then you don't have a good strategy. What are you going to do after you have it? Right? So going through this discovery really help us understand what motivates you to do X. And it doesn't make sense for you to do that right now, because honestly, we would just love to bring in more business to ourselves, but I want to make sure that they are going to be getting the most that they can for the investment, for what it is that makes sense for their business, right? If it's not, if it doesn't make sense for them to make a website right now, then I'll tell them you're not ready for a website right now. If you want, just go to Squarespace and just like make a quick website there.
Like a
You
splash
don't need us
page or
technically.
something.
Exactly.
Yeah, just a landing
Yeah.
page.
Yeah.
So you
And
could actually save them money.
oh yeah, I mean, honestly, I do not want to see them, get so strapped in their funding and not being able to move forward in their business because they spend something in the wrong place, right? They have to have a priority first. Like, which one is the most important for you right now? Is it the marketing? Then let's focus on the marketing. If it's more on the branding and that makes sense for you to expand your offerings through the branding, marketing strategies, and communication, will do exactly that. But oftentimes they are so focused and trying to look around within their world, like, oh, my competitor have new website, oh, someone says that I need to do X. Like, let's calm down and then just like, yeah, take a breath. Like, let's just focus on you. Like, what is it that you feel is missing right now? Why do you think we need a website? Or maybe why do you think we need to update your website? There's got to be like an information that we need to figure out first before we kind of prepare a plan for them so that they can move forward with it, right? So yeah, that session typically very much helpful, not just for me, but also for them. They can then understand like, okay, I have a plan now, what I need to do next. So it's not going to be something that, it's not something that can
it's
just
not
like
cut and
waste
dry.
their money.
It's right. It's not one
Exactly.
size fits all. So besides quote branding, which is a logo, which is a website design, which is picking out colors and fonts, right? I mean, it literally is your entire snapshot of your company in color, print, and whatnot. So do you do all of those things? What does your company, like if I come to you and I say, hi, I have a coffee shop and I am all over the place, what can you do as a company for people that come to you?
That's a good question. Typically we'll ask back, it's like, what do you think is missing right now? Or like, why do we need to evaluate this? There's got to be some sort of like, something in their mind right now that they are feeling is missing. Yeah. Oftentimes when clients come to us and say exactly, well, not exactly, but similar to what you said, we found out that they either are not confident with their marketing strategy. They found out that they're not getting enough leads on their website, right? Or they found out that their brand is really just like blah. I mean, nobody really understands what they're all about. Their messaging is all over the place. Nothing is consistent. So there are some areas in their life that they feel is missing in their business. So that's why they're like, okay, we need to do something. But what is that something? Yeah. And they would just like label it, we just need to update our website. Okay, but why? Why do we need that? Let's just get down to the bottom of it so that we can measure whatever it is that we're trying to do, so that you're not just like, investing somewhere. Yeah. Exactly. And not getting any return out of it. So that's pretty much what we really try to help a lot of the people that came to us and our clients. And also, there's a lot of different assumptions around website as well, right? There are so many different platforms out there, Meredith, and I feel like you can honestly pick and choose whichever one you like. However, understanding like there are different platforms out there for a reason doesn't mean that all of those are going to fit you. Yeah. If you mainly serve retail, you probably want to look at Shopify. But if you really want to focus your marketing strategies on building content and blogging, then WordPress could be one platform that's going to be a better fit for you. Or maybe you just don't want to deal with any other like coding stuff. Then Squarespace is really going to be awesome for you because you don't have to worry about those. You can just like plug and play. Yeah. So there's not enough, in my opinion, like I guess like resources for them to understand like what is it that I need, right? Which one makes sense? And I think through our discussion with a lot of these entrepreneurs, it really helps them understand like, okay, that's what I need. okay, now I can think about what is the next steps I need to do for my business and whether or not that makes sense.
Yeah, because when I'm listening to what you're saying, it's things aren't going necessarily the way I want them to go, change everything. And what you're saying is that might not be necessary. So let's take a breath and find out what's happening, because maybe their phone's ringing off the hook, but no one's buying because the prices are so high. So they can change their logo 7 ways from Saturday. People are still not going to buy anything because you can't charge $700 for, a sweater, or whatever.
Exactly.
So it's more of a let's actually find the problem before we just spend, $10,000 changing everything. And that's amazing. I love that you're able to see past just, yeah, sure, we'll give you a new, $20,000 website or whatever, that there might be
Yeah.
something else that we need to fix, like you're posting on social media or whatever. So not just are you a woman who came from Bali, who started her own company, who created a word, but you're also married, and you have a household that you're running, and you're a woman entrepreneur. And just like the rest of us women out here, we're trying to figure out life and swim through all of the challenges of being a woman and running a company. And sometimes we forget to take a minute. And recently you had a problem that you had to overcome. And
Yeah.
if you want to talk about that for a minute.
Oh, yeah. So last month in March, I was really happy because I finally saw the positive signs, like, yay, you're pregnant. I was like, oh my God. I was so ecstatic. And I called my family. I couldn't stop smiling because I've been trying to get pregnant again with my husband for over a year. So this was just so amazing. I'm so excited. However, that happiness was very cut short. So I found out on Saturday, and then on Monday, the following few days, I start feeling a really painful tummy ache. And I was like, okay, it's probably something that I ate yesterday, probably something bad, probably gonna go away. It did not go away after 6 hours, and it's just
Ugh.
like still there. I was like, okay, it probably, I don't know, like maybe I'm too bloating, I don't know. So I was just trying to think of something that is
Sad.
not sad, exactly, because I had this experience in maybe about 6 7 years before, and I try not to go there. So I went to the urgent care, and they told me, okay, because you're pregnant, things could get complicated, especially in the abdomen. So we recommend you should probably go to the emergency care. I was like, okay, I'll go there. And then I went there, and they kept me there for quite some time because they're also trying to figure out, okay, what is going on with this lady, because I wasn't bleeding, right?
Mm.
Typically, when you're bleeding and you're pregnant, you kind of know something definitely is wrong.
You got your clues,
But
right? Yeah.
exactly. And I'm going to be a bit transparent here. I had ectopic pregnancy before, back in 2012. And that one, I had bleeding. So I knew exactly like how that felt. But my understanding was that they already took out my right tube. So the pain is still on the right tube. I was like, this is weird. It shouldn't be an ectopic pregnancy because it's already taken out. So they
Right.
also like trying to figure out, okay, what is wrong with this girl? And they ended up like just like observing me. And we found out the next week after that I did have the ectopic pregnancy, and we had to go through a surgery for that one. I was honestly didn't know how to feel because I was just so happy, and then immediately right after that everything just crashed. And I think at that moment I realized that you can't just like go all the time.
Yeah.
As a woman entrepreneur, I feel like that has been the mentality that we have been having. We've been telling ourselves, keep hustling, keep going and everything. But there will be a time that I think we all need to really reflect on ourselves and pause on a lot of different things, including work, and just like take a deep breath enjoy your family, right? Enjoy having fun, like having a life that is not just work. So that really made me think of, what do I really want in life? Like, seriously, has been a really big wake up call for me, to know that happiness can last so long and also can last so short.
Yeah.
Um, I almost feel like that is a big moment for me to also think about, what would my business look like if I'm not in the business. I'm lucky now that I finally have like a team of designers under me, and my husband also is my business partner. But what can I do if I need to step away from the business? Can the business run itself? So there's so many things that's going on my mind around, when can we just like slow down, right? As a woman entrepreneur, we have family, we have like a lot of things in our mind a lot of the times. But how can we also like advance ourselves at the same time? Where is that line for us?
Yeah.
What are the boundaries that we have for ourselves? So there's just like so many different things. I could go on and on of
Yeah.
this, but I'm hoping
It's
people would
crazy.
at least have that insights for themselves. Like, really ask yourself, where do you want to go? But how far are you willing to go? Also, like, what boundaries do you want to set for yourself so that you can still keep your sanity and keep your happiness? We all creating this entrepreneurship for ourselves because we believe that there are opportunities where we can build our own lifestyle, right? But it shouldn't be running us. We should be the one running it.
Yeah. And I read a book, Laura Bull wrote it. It's from Individual to Empire. Great book. And she actually talks about building a brand too. Hey mama. And she talks about when you kind of start to put the goalpost up, because as entrepreneurs, we move the goalpost constantly. So it's here, and we're never ever satisfied. It's never big enough. It's never enough money. It's never, enough publicity, never enough followers, because
Yeah.
when you're an entrepreneur, there is no limit. Like when you have a job, you get a raise, or you get a
Yeah.
title, or you move up. And so there's kind of like these levels that are institutionally there that we can see, and that to maybe move up, maybe we need to change jobs. But as an entrepreneur, like for myself, I'm like, I'm going to be the most famous podcaster in the whole world and have clients and speaking engagements. There's no limit,
Yeah.
which means we have no boundaries, which means we have no hours, which means all hours are our hours. There's no limits. And so I think that when you are an entrepreneur, you always have the phone. You're always available. You never say no, because that's the breath of it. You're like, well, I just had lunch with my husband. I just went for a walk. I just went to, so now I'm going to work all night. It's kind of this very give and take, but sometimes that grows legs and can be
Mm-hmm.
very, very overwhelming. So I think when you're an entrepreneur, like one of the things it said in the book was, to set your goalpost so that at least when you got there. And everyone's
Yeah.
goalpost might be different. Maybe it's money. For me, it's to speak on stage and inspire people. And so, because what if I say that and then it's like, oh, but then a million, and then you never know when you're successful. You lose sight of
Yeah.
success. And so I so appreciate you sharing that story. I mean, 9 out of 10 women, you didn't necessarily, I don't know if they would call that a miscarriage, but 9 out of 10 women have a miscarriage. I've had two myself, between my first and second kid. And I know that, as you said, you go from very happy to very confused to trying to wrap your brain around what's happening to you and your body. And it's
Mm-hmm.
very scary and sad all at the same time. And with clients that have had miscarriage that I've talked to, it really has been a very awakening situation of, okay, let's take a pause. Let's take a breath here and see
Yeah.
what it is that we're doing to ourselves. Like, not that you did this to yourself, but you know what I mean, in the work environment, what we're doing to
Yeah.
ourselves. So I hate that you had to go through that. And, but I love that you, as I always say, learned a lesson, learned the lesson, not learned a lesson, but learned the lesson of life of, okay, let me take a pause here. Let me take a hard pause and see where what I'm
Yeah.
doing. I love that.
Thank you, Meredith. But honestly, here's one thing that also came out of it. After the surgery, my husband basically told me, "You are not going to work for the next 7 days." What did I do? Of course, I grabbed my laptop and take it to the bedroom. Right?
Yep.
Oh, goodness.
Yep.
But that just really proves that sometimes we as women, especially if we run our own business, sometimes we can't get our mind off of it. And when you're really experiencing something either traumatic or something big that just happened recently in your life, you want something to get off of your mind. And I feel like work is just something where I feel like I can escape there, right? And in a
Yeah.
sense, that's still healthy-ish, sort
Yeah.
of.
Go deal with someone else's problem, right? Let me deal with this problem. I can handle website and color and font problems and design issues of someone else's life. Cause yeah, no, I mean, work can very well be healthy. I was just talking to somebody, I don't even remember, I think it was this morning. That's insane. And I was telling, if when you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I do see that in you, that this is your passion and that helping people is your passion and that you love it. But we just do need to put boundaries around our
Yeah.
time and
Mhm.
taking care of our bodies and eating healthy and not, working ourselves to death. But like we were talking before hitting the, record button today, a lot of women, we feel like we have to work twice as hard as a man to get where we want to go. We need to stand
Mhm.
out. We need to network. We need to push ourselves. We need to be doing all of everything. We can't leave it up to anybody, control freak, women.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where the illness lies. But I do feel, and maybe it's just because I'm talking to so many amazing women doing these podcasts, but I do feel the tide is changing. I do feel a feminine energy coming in to life, to the world, to careers and to businesses, that there's a feminine energy that is coming in by way of hiring minorities and hiring women and getting more people involved in decision making and C-level positions. And so I do think that we're getting there and we're going to start seeing that change of tide because I mean, and like I said, I'm in my own little bubble of amazing women in business, but I think we're going to get there. I think we're going to get there. I think COVID's going to have a lot to do with it. Women
Yeah.
just went through a year of being home with their kids, good, bad, or ugly.
Yeah.
We went through a year of being able to eat when we want to and go for a walk and, not schlep an hour each way to work on the train, etc. And
Mhm. Yeah.
I think that COVID is redefining the way people work and the way people live and the way the work-life balance is. So I mean, we cannot negate the loss that people have felt, of course,
Mhm.
but we all also have to look at it and go, well, what good did come from it? And I do think that the feminine energy coming into the workplace is one of them. It's not the
Yes.
hustle, be busy, hustle, work 25 hours a day. It makes you better. It's like, no, we don't need to, we don't like, enough of that. We're done.
Yeah. I agree with you on that one. And I almost also feel that, with all the things that happen, right? The very important lessons, well, maybe not lessons, but the very important thing that came out of this is that women, at least now, are able to work from home. Like more of us are able to do that. Previously, their employers might not allow them to do that. Not at all, right? And they have to commute every day.
Ugh,
But
right.
now, I mean, like, imagine we already have this technology, like, what, for over 10 years?
Yep.
Why haven't we really, let a lot of women who are building their small and, young families to be able to work from home or maybe like a couple of days out of the week? Why can't we do that? I mean, they are Zoom. Why do we have to
Yeah.
wait until they hit COVID so that we can have that, flexibility from them? So that is something that I'm just so excited to see that now more and more companies are able to provide that, right? And making it, I hope in the future, making that something as, it's not just a benefit, but at least it's in their regulation to give their female employees, especially those who are building their young families, an option. It's like, yes, you can work from home if you like to.
Yeah. I mean, I was just talking to a gal at lunch on Friday, and she said she works for, I think, an accounting firm, like a big, huge one. And she was talking about how they would just fly everywhere. Like, I mean, hundreds of employees constantly flying all over the country in hotel rooms and rental cars and trains, planes, and automobiles. And it's like, oh my God, that's, first of all, it's a complete waste of money. It's a complete waste of time and energy. And it's so bad for the environment. I mean, hello.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think that we're pulling back in the right direction of the busy lifestyle. Like, if you're not here 9 to 5, I don't have my value as my employee. You have to be sitting in that desk. And it's insane. And like, even with my husband, like, might get done with the call at 3:30, have nothing else scheduled, and he could go coach. He could go for a walk. He could go with me and, handle the grocery shopping instead of just sitting there till 5, because that's what's supposed to be done. And then he gets to go get on the train for an hour drive home.
Yeah.
So now it's 2.5 hours of wasted
Wow.
life
Yeah.
each way, And so I think that,
God.
but goes back to that, sometimes things happen to course correct. And I think that this COVID has been a course correction for family and time management and the environment and
Yes.
everything like that. And I think that, I mean, if that doesn't scream Bali, even though I'm telling you the water bottle situation, if you can figure that out, I mean, we need to figure out Bali water bottle situation, because that is traumatic. But I mean, I
agree.
know there are definitely people over there working on it, but it is the most beautiful country. I mean, and just the housing and the things that you can do if you can get yourself there is just magical. I mean,
Yes.
it is the most magical land. So are you planning on going back anytime soon?
Oh, I wish. I don't think we'll be able to go this year, but I am trying to see if we can actually go next year. Sometime next year, I think that would be fantastic. I already got my first shot of vaccine. I'm looking for my second one in the next month, but I don't know what's going to happen, right? I feel like there's going to be like up and down with COVID. So we'll just see whenever it's safe. But I believe in, things are progressing.
Yeah.
We finally have vaccines, and I'm hoping like, things will be moving forward as well. And I'm honestly just feel like it's time for us to wait. We have been so busy hustling and moving forward all the time. I think it's just time to just like take it easy, right? It's not going anywhere really. I mean, it's like you can handle it the most you can. You don't have to force yourself. And hopefully we'll be able to go to Bali. I mean, like, seems like you had a great time in there, and I hope people will be able to, come visit the island too.
It's amazing. So, and everyone out there, that if you're thinking about starting a business, if you have a business and you're like, okay, I want an adjustment, I need a new something. If you've listened to this podcast, go back to the beginning, because she explains that it doesn't have to be a whole rehaul. Like, if you go see her, again, all the contact information is in the show notes today at Chykalophia. You will be able to get the exact information that you need to make the changes in your company and your brand that you do and don't need. She'll be able to point it all out to you. But thank you so much for taking this time and talking about being, on and off brand and staying on brand, and, all the challenges of being a woman entrepreneur, and just how you got here, and just being a badass boss bitch and not listening to anyone on your island or your parents or even free money, and just following your heart, because that to me is so important during this series as a woman, and women listeners, of listening and finding your voice. I mean, I just was talking to a gal earlier today. Sometimes all we can hear is our moms in our head, or all we can hear is society in our head. And we just forget what our voice and our opinion and what our desires are, and we get lost in it. So I thank you so much for sharing that part of your story, so that women can know, and girls and that are listening can hear that it does make a difference. And and helping kids as your husband did, not that you were a kid, but planting that seed for possibility. It literally changed the direction of your life. And I just love it so much to have that hope. It's just so good. So thank you so much, Ari. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me here, Meredith. This has been so much fun.
So much fun. Well, we'll definitely be talking soon since we're in Chicago, and hopefully we can go to an event eventually here and actually see each other in person. I love it. Well, thank you again so much. And we will definitely talk soon. Everybody go check out Ari on her website, and you're over on social media and everything too, right?
Yes.
Where are you at on Instagram? What's it? Is it the Chykalophia on Instagram?
Yep. Okay. Everywhere on social media, I will be at Chykalophia.
Thanks for listening. If you would like to connect on a more personal level, head over to meredithwillits.com or on Instagram at Meredith with a Y for behind-the-scene footage and outtakes. Please subscribe and come back each week for more Meredith with a Y. Thanks again for listening. Cheers.